like to say it's like a big support group on wheels. What we did, I like to think, was a very humble approach to recognize that while there are many countries in conflict or struggling through all sorts of problems, there are no unique conflicts in the world. Every conflict will have its own unique characteristics. But at the end of the day, we're all humans. And we struggle with fear, indifference, insecurity. What does the future hold? Do I feel safe? These are not unique to our country, speaking as an American. And in those 30 years, we had the privilege of working in Northern Ireland, the Middle East, Central America, the Balkans, not in the process of negotiation in South Africa, but a little bit in the process of dealing with their past in the Truth Commission. But most importantly, being able to reach out to Roelf and people on different sides in his country and say, could you come to Northern Ireland? Could you go to the Balkans? Could you go to Central America and other countries where people were struggling with, can we have a peace process after generations of hatred and violence and division? Can we make peace with our enemies? And what a lot of people resisted in the beginning was this notion you can learn from the experience of others. What do they have to offer me? Nobody understands our suffering. Things are very different. But after a conversation, they realize this is universal. How do you overcome profound fear and mistrust? There's huge pressure that your community says, oh, you're selling out. And so many of the things that we find in the United States, I've seen in many countries around the world, including South Africa. And so I'm honored as an American, as all of us in this room, to listen to Roelf and Mohammed speaking in the wisdom of their experience. And we're here because they learned, and what I've learned in the last few years, is that change happens locally. It's not happening in Washington. It happens locally. And that's what they experienced in their country and many others. So I'm going to stop speaking because I'll take away from my path to nowhere. And I'm going to introduce Roelf and Mohammed. And maybe just ask you, there's a microphone here for both of you. Why are you here? And what have you seen in the last few days? And then we're going to go to a conversation. Thank you.
I thought you were going to introduce me, but anyway, I'll have to introduce myself and be immodest. My name is Mohammed Bhabha.
Bring the mic up, sorry.
And there's a reason why I'm going to tell you about my ethnicity too. So I am fourth generation of Indian extract, and in South Africa around the 18th century, slaves were brought in from India, indentured labor as we call them. They had to buy their own freedom. And so the first batch of indentured laborers came in from India because the local people, the indigenous people, were fighting and resisting the white immigrants that had come there, and they needed people to work on the vineyards as well as on the sugarcane fields. So I come from that generation. Of course, my forefathers were not indentured laborers. They followed Mahatma Gandhi because he came from the merchant class. So that's how I came to, or my family came to South Africa. The reason why I mention my ethnicity is to give you a context of what South Africa was about. But before I do that, I'm a lawyer by training, and I see a judge here, and somehow just instinctively I was shivering. But anyway, the point is, I was a lawyer by training, and it wasn't a choice. We were asked to join the movement. Each of us played a particular role. There were those that were in the trenches, literally holding guns. There were some of us that were asked to represent activists. There were some of us who were at an intellectual level, at an international diplomatic level, so we all played different roles. Many of us suffered in different degrees. Having said that, in 1994, before 94, this was my enemy. I hated Roelf with a passion, believe me. And if I had the opportunity, I think I would have hurt you. That was the anger, and that was the hatred. That was South Africa. That characterized our nation. In 90, Nelson Mandela is released, and then we are forced into negotiations. And I hope Roelf will unpack why